Hi, I'm Vernon Reid Prolifically, and you're watching the Guitar Mania channel. Peace.
Vernon,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Let's kick off with the
Oh, sure.
interview.
Yeah.
An amazing show tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you
I
very
understand this is the last show of European leg of
Yeah,
the tour.
yeah. We're gonna this part, the first European leg, because we're gonna come back later on. We're gonna come back probably in the summertime.
Okay.
But for this part, this is the end of this part.
Right.
We go back and we start in about a week. We go to the West Coast
Okay.
in America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time for a midterm review. How were the shows so far?
They were really good, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that was very special about it was that a lot of this material we played a lot. We played Vivid in a Living Color show. We played Vivid, 9 songs, right?
Yeah.
We play a bunch of them, but to play them in the sequence really upends our expectations, our whole thing. Like, the record starts with Cult of Personality. And it's a funny thing to play it first, because normally we play a whole show, and then we play, it's a strategy a lot of bands do. You play your best known song, you play it like last, right?
Yeah.
But there's something about playing the album, it's made it fresh for us, because the dynamic and the rhythm that we're used to, it kind of unsettles everything. Because now we're playing like I Want to Know, which we haven't played in years. We haven't played that in years. And we haven't played Broken Hearts in a really long time. So it just, it's been very fresh in a weird way, because it's a lot of its music, but it's in an order that,
Yeah. I know that you're opening the show with the Robert Johnson song,
Yeah.
Preaching Blues.
Yeah.
Why?
Because we've been talking about re-engaging with the blues, and also like the blues as DNA for like metal and for hard rock, and how there's been this movement away from the blues, and if people do blues, it's kind of like it's a very specific sort of thing, and we got invited to play the centenary of Robert Johnson. And we did Preaching Blues, and it's kind of based a little bit off of a riff that Derek Trucks had done a version of Preaching Blues. And it's a little bit, I heard his version, I said, wow, I really like how he did it. And then listening to Robert Johnson, and basically we did the Robert Johnson lyrics,
Yep.
on this kind of other kind of riff. And we played it, and it was just this amazing thing. We wound up recording it, and it's probably going to be, there's a good chance it'll be on our next record.
Right.
Because thinking about, on a level, one of the brilliant things that Led Zeppelin did was that they kind of reverse engineered the blues. They kind of took it and turned it sideways.
Right.
And so now I'm thinking about, there's so many ways in which the blues is relevant, still relevant. And to think of it beyond the kind of cliched, the way we always think about it. And so the challenge is to think about modern stories and modern conflict.
Right.
Like all of these sorts of things. Like what does it mean now to have like a black president?
Was learning the blues, studying the blues, an important element for you to become a musician?
Absolutely. Well, it's the thing that's great about the blues the blues on a certain level is, it's like a kind of folk music that's, it's the, almost, I hate to say simple, because it's, a lot of the blues form isn't that complicated. It can be made very complicated, because people do all kinds of stuff with it. But it's a kind of form, the 1-4-5 form is a very basic introduction to harmony. But the thing about it also is, like this whole idea of the feeling that you transmit, like figuring out how to find what your feeling is, and how do you inject your feeling? How do you own, bending strings? Like when people talk about techniques for playing the blues, like all music has a certain amount of techniques.
Yeah.
But how do you invest yourself? How do you find yourself?
I noted that during the set, there's another sort of piece that you played that sounded very traditional, very traditional.
Oh yeah, it's like an intro to Memories Can't Wait.
Okay. My question would be, and also with the slide that you played, that Preaching Blues at the beginning, do you use different tunings for that, or is that standard?
That wasn't standard tuning. That wasn't standard tuning. Even though I do some altered tunings, but tonight I was pretty much in standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. When we had we came up to the stage and had the opportunity to take shots of your throat, and I thought yours is amazing, but Doug's is even bigger. And,
in the space station. Well, it's so funny, man, because it's interesting to have a setup that dips into all kinds of other kind of technology, but at the same time, you'll hear us play very basic. Like I played, it sounded like I could have just plugged right into the amp, when I played that tune. Because mainly, my feeling about it is, I love the tech and I love the toys, but that's not the same as the feeling that I have at a particular moment. So it's like having a technique like tapping or any sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like I come from a background of more improvisation. So I'm not so programmatic. Like, oh, I'm going to do, this is the part of the solo where I do. It's like one of these things where if the feeling arises, then I'll go there.
Okay.
If the feeling doesn't arise, then. Talking to the girls and shutting the eyes. Everybody wants you in your life. The intention and the passion's double
I saw that you used Mesa Boogie rectifier amps.
Yeah, man.
This too.
Yeah, I came back. I use recto amps back in the. I had to do some of the early rectos, and I've been, doing stuff with Crate. I've been doing stuff with Randall, but I decided to go back to Mesa Boogie because it's just like Mesa Boogie, and I would say Soldano. Like Mesa Boogie, the recto really kind of redefined, the amp space, the guitar space in rock and metal, and I would say the Soldano did it as well. Okay. Wagner, the Wagner did, that whole thing, but I just love the sound, and it works great with my gear. It works, it's a great marriage to have the tubes, to have I feel.
I totally agree. I think you have a fantastic sound.
Oh, well,
the sound that you had tonight was absolutely.
You have to, I kind of think the thing of analog and digital, they have to work together. There's a kind of, there's a thing that digital will not do. And, certainly the technology is moving forward. I mean, it's a matter of, like, the Axe effects is fucking amazing.
Do you have one? Do you own one?
I do have an Axe effects Ultra.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really interesting technology. There's this thing, the Kemper modeling.
Modeling, yeah.
It's uncanny.
Yeah.
It's freaky what you can do. But, the physicality of amps is something that I haven't gotten around. It's really important that with using tech, it's all technology, all of it.
Yeah.
But it's just like the same thing now. There's a whole thing of analog synthesis and, people going back to patch cables and whatnot to get an actual, a different kind of, a palette that isn't a preset. It's a palette that's, you're making it, like you're doing it. And so that's very much part of my aesthetic in terms of sounds.
You mentioned that you're writing songs again.
Yeah.
Can we expect a new album soon?
Yeah, we're starting. We're starting up, and I tend to write with like fragments and phrases and things. Like a line will come to me. Like I wrote a blues about unmanned drones. I wrote a blues, and it's kind of like a jokey blues, but it's a blues really about the surveillance regime that we live under, and dealing with anonymous and dealing with, the end of privacy, and a whole idea is to actually, instead of it being a paranoid thing, it's like embracing the fact that privacy is gone.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's going to wind up, on the record, but it's like I was processing this whole talk about unmanned drones, and then I just came up with a line. I thought, oh, okay, that's something. So,
with Living Color, there's always been more than just music. You guys there's always been also a political dimension, a social dimension.
Yeah, and girls. And girls.
Okay.
And girls. Because, a lot, it's interesting how many, in a way, Vivid is a chronicle of living in New York, like New York from, really the mid-'80s. Like Desperate People. I wrote Desperate People after Jean-Michel Basquiat overdosed. And Jean-Michel, he was in the community. He was like a person, I saw him, I was playing guitar with Ronald Shannon Jackson in Decoding Society, and I was going away for a tour, and I ran into Jean-Michel. And Jean-Michel said, hey, Vernon, man, come by my studio. He invited me to the studio. And I went on tour. When I came back home, about a week went by, and then my friend, the journalist Greg Tate, called me and said, that he had overdosed.
Yeah.
And so the song Desperate People really was a reaction to the scene. There was a kind of heroin, cocaine chic that was, that was ongoing. And also, I lost friends due to, they were also in the criminal side of it.
Yeah.
And, I have a couple of friends that.
Has New York the same dynamics for you as it had in the 80s, or has it
No,
changed?
it's just changed. It's utterly changed. In fact, it's weirdly reflective to think about, like, the world we knew of CBGBs and the Mud Club and Tramps and the Old Ritz and Privates and Trudy Hellers. That is, all of that's gone. And, just the fact that the center of gravity culturally has almost shifted to Brooklyn, And even in Brooklyn, like a place like Southpaw, which is like I saw Tom Morello. The first time Tom Morello did The Night Watchman, He played a gig at Southpaw, and that club is also gone. So, there are other places that have opened up. It's not totally dead, but the scene is very, very different. It's a very different.
So where do you take your inspiration? I mean, you mentioned the lack of privacy, anonymous as an inspiration.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one thing, but I think that the nature of what relationships are like, it's fascinating to me that people are meeting their significant others, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their wives, their husbands, online. That's astonishing to me, but that is common. That's a common thing. And that's old. That's actually been a common thing for almost all of the 2000s. And that's a fascinating thing. And so the whole idea of what people say about themselves and who they actually are. There's so many things that people hide. And in the things that they're hiding, they reveal so much. And so when I think about a blues for a modern day, and modern metaphors, those are the things I think about. Because modern life has so altered relationships. It's so altered, communication. But the blues is like a universal existential constant. And so that's the thing that I'm thinking about and processing with this next group of songs. It's like those kind of questions.
So it's sort of transposing this traditional method of composition into the contemporary.
It's like what's like how like the whole idea of 1% and 99%, and that. I think of like the people that are the 1%, like the hedge fund guys. They're part of the laughing class. They laugh every day. They laugh at us every day. They think they have such contempt for the everyday person. It's literally stunning. So when they take like a bunch of loans, and they entice people to get loans that they can't pay back, that they know they won't be able to pay back. And they take those things and they make them a financial instrument.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and say, we know that there's going to be a default, so we're going to bet against. It's kind of diabolical. You know what I mean? But this whole idea of the numbers game, So that's the thing that I'm processing.
Yeah. And I mean, when you mentioned the cult of personality, I mean, this is more topical than ever. I mean, you just look at the new Pope. Look at President Barack Obama.
It's a weird, like, cult of personality is still relevant because the principles are even more true now. Because, like, when Barack Obama goes, yes, we can, at that moment, he had become a symbol. He had become a symbol of people's, because he was so unlikely. And he says, this unlikely campaign, and the thing that I related to it was, at a certain point, I realized Living Colour was the same thing. Living Colour was a band that, in a lot of ways, Mother's Finest, there's a bunch of bands that actually did what we did. You know what I mean? The John Butcher Access, Mother's Finest, Edwin Birdsong, Automatic Man. There's a ton of these bands that mainly people don't know. And it was so, and people were like, it's impossible, it's not going to happen. And the weird thing, there's a saying, the door that closes tightly is the door that can swing wide. And at a certain point.
What do you mean by that? I don't understand.
Well, what it means that the thing that seems the most unlikely, the thing that seems really secure, can ultimately be changed. Like, when Living Color, we signed our record contract in the back of CBGB's. I mean, this was an incredible thing. You know, because it wasn't like, oh yeah, man, you guys are gonna, you know, people were like, oh God, you don't have a shot. Like,
Yeah.
and so when Barack Obama announced his candidacy, I was on tour. I was in a hotel room when he said it. I had this crazy feeling because I was like, you know, I know what this is. I know what that is. And it just started to feel like the rhythm of everything started to turn in this odd direction.
Yeah.
And I can relate to it because when we had, you know, when we had a platinum record, when we were getting a Grammy Award, it was, you know, from when I think about where we came from, it's incredible.
Yeah. Amazing. Vernon, thank you very much. All the best.
Oh man, thank you
for your tour and for the new record.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate.
Man, we're having a good time. We're having a good time with each other. That's really, you can see it on stage that we're actually having a good time.
No, the songs sound like they were written yesterday. Really.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, because it's weird, you know. Well, you know, if something is true, it still is. You know, the human condition is it changes, but it also doesn't change. You know, like we think about people who are very different in the past, and they were, but they're not. You know what I mean? I mean, that's why certain songs are standards, why certain things just have staying power. You know, and it's just, you know, I feel very fortunate. I love the fact that we play well together and we're having a good time. Hi, I'm Vernon Reid from Living Color, and you're listening or watching?
We're watching.
Yeah. God damn it. Hi, I'm Vernon Reid from Living Color, and you're watching the Guitar Mania channel. Peace.
Everybody.